Go.
All right, so this is a Class B school bus inspection test for the Modernized skills testing. So you get this checklist and you only need to check the items that are on the list. You don't necessarily have to go in the order that it says here. You can go in any order you want, just as long as you're checking all the items. So you want to mark these off as you're going so that you know if you checked them or not. And then there's parts on here where it says air or hydraulic brake check. So if there's an or, it's one or the other. So this is an air brake vehicle, so we're going to be doing the air brake test. There is no hydraulic brake check on this one. And there's a couple of different spots on here where that may be. So to start, I'm just going to go ahead and go right down the list here. Actually, I want to start with my parking brake. So I'm going to do a safe start. I'm going to look around the vehicle, make sure that there's nobody around it, nobody leaning up against it or underneath it that I can see. I want to have my foot covering the brake, and then turn the key to the on position, let my gauges cycle. All right, and then start the vehicle. Okay, and then I want to check my oil pressure gauge and just make sure that it rises a little bit, showing that we have oil pressure. All right, so that just rose and that looks good. If that was down too low, I'd want to shut the engine off. Okay, so I'm going to start out with the parking brake check and then the service brake check, and then I'll do the air brake check. So my air pressure gauges are over here, about 110. So that's plenty of pressure. I'm going to make sure my parking brake is set. Apply the brake lightly, put the vehicle in drive, make sure that it actually goes into drive, and then tug against it. All right, so there was no movement there. My parking brake is working properly. So I'm going to release my parking brake now and test my service brake. To test my service brake, I want to pull forward about 5 miles per hour, apply the brake, and lightly hold the steering wheel and see if the vehicle pulls to the right or the left. It should not pull to the right or the left and should stop the vehicle smoothly. And if it's not working, as well as you'd like, you want to make sure you turn that in. So put the vehicle in drive. I want to get up to at least 5 miles an hour, right about 5 miles an hour. All right. Lightly hold the wheel, apply the brakes. The vehicle came to the stop normally, and it feels good. It wasn't really weak or anything, and it did not pull to the right or the left. And then that's indicating that the parking brake or the service brake is working properly. All right, so next I'm going to go into the air brake check. So I'm going to put the vehicle in neutral, see if I can stay here. All right, the vehicle is not moving, and the brakes are released and the vehicle's in neutral, so it's not rolling off at all. So I don't need to chock the wheels. If the vehicle was moving at all, I would want to chock my wheels and make sure that it doesn't move. So the first thing I want to do is check my governor cutout. I just heard it, but I wasn't paying attention to the gauges. So I'm actually going to pump the brakes down just a little bit and get that governor to kick back in and build the air. So the first part of the air brake check is the governor cutoff. I want to see what pressure the governor cuts out. So the air pressure is rising. It should cut out between 120 and 140 psi, unless its manufacturer specifications are set at a different level, in which case you would just let the examiner know. The governor just cut out. The air pressure is about 120, so that's in that range and working properly. So now I'm going to go ahead for the next part. I'm going to turn the engine off, turn the key back to the on position. My parking brake is released and I'm in neutral. I want to make sure that, again, I'm not moving or anything. So now I'm going to fully apply the service brake, and I'm going to check and see how much air pressure I lose in 1 minute. So my needles have settled. So I've got the service brake fully applied, the parking brake released, the engine off and the key in the on position. And now I'm checking, it is right at 115 psi. So I'm going to check that for 1 minute, and I can lose no more than 3 psi in 1 minute. Now, if you make any kind of mistake during the air brake check, anything, start over. If you're not 100% sure that you did it correctly, start over from the beginning, build the air pressure up to the governor cutout, and follow all the steps. So again, right now we're on step 2, which is 1 minute, checking to make sure we lose no more than 3 psi in that 1 minute. So you can use your phone, a timer. I've got a watch on, so I'm just using that, watching the seconds. And you want to hold that for a full minute, which we're coming right up to that. All right, it's been 1 minute, and I haven't lost any air pressure, so that's perfect. So I lost 0 air pressure, or PSI, in 1 minute. The maximum I can lose in 1 minute is 3 PSI. All right, so the next check is to see when the low air indicator, warning light, and buzzer comes on. On this particular vehicle, the buzzer is already sounding, which is normal for some vehicles. So what you really want to do is watch the light and see when that warning light comes on. And some vehicles, the beeping will actually change tone or speed. This one just stays the same. So I'm gonna pump this down and then see when the low air warning light comes on, and that should come on above 55 psi. Okay, my low air warning light just came on, the buzzer is still on, and it looks like we're right about 65 psi. So that is working properly, and it's above 55, so that is perfect. All right, so that's the third part. The fourth part is to see when the valve here will pop out. So this is the pop out test. That should pop out between 20 and 40 psi, 20 and 45 psi, excuse me. And so again, I'm gonna pump the brakes and see when this pops out. I'm gonna watch this valve. I don't care about the gauges right now. I'm just gonna watch the valve. And once it pops out, I will stop pumping the brakes and I will check and see what the pressure is. So it just popped out, and my air pressure is right at 40 psi. That's between 20 and 45, so that's operating correctly. And the air brake test on this vehicle was successful, and everything is working as it should. All right, so we'll go ahead and start the vehicle. Again, do a safe start, check around the vehicle, foot hovering over the brake, parking brake is set, vehicle is in neutral. Start the vehicle. All right. So next I've got on the list is lighting indicators. So that's the dashboard lights, all right? So I want to check all my lighting indicators in here. I'm checking my left turn indicator. When I turn the left on, the light comes on and flashes as it should. I turn it off, it goes off. My right turn indicator comes on and goes off. My hazard lights come on and they're working properly, and they shut off when I shut it off. And then my high beam indicator, the blue light here, comes on. That's operating correctly. It goes off when I turn it off. And then I've got my ABS warning light. I'm gonna have to turn the engine off and cycle through to see if that light comes on. So I turned the key to the on position, my ABS light came on, and then it just went off. That's indicating that the ABS system is working properly. So go ahead and do a really quick safe start here again. All right. And then that is for those. Next, I want to check my alternating lights here. I've got indicators in here for my school lights or children lights. I've got the alternating yellow and alternating red. So I need to close my door. I just want to make sure that these lights are working. So I'm going to turn my master switch on and then turn that one on. That's turned on my amber lights I can see in the mirrors. Those are flashing. And then to turn on the red, we open the door and the red lights just switched over. That's indicating that, you know, these lights are working properly. So I'll go ahead and close the door, and they turned off as they should. So this system is working properly. So I'll turn that master switch back off. All right. Next we have emergency equipment. So down below here I have a fire extinguisher. I'm checking to make sure that it's securely mounted. It's not cracked or damaged. It's not missing any safety pins or anything that could keep it from accidentally discharging. It's properly rated and it's fully charged. Next, I've got 3 reflective triangles. That's going to be up in this box here. So my red reflective triangles, you need a minimum of 3. They're clean, they're not cracked or damaged, and they're in usable condition. Next, I want to check for spare fuses or breakers. Well, this bus mainly uses breakers, but there are a couple of fuses here and there. So I want to make sure that I have spare fuses or breakers of the correct size and type, and that they are in good condition and, you know, good usable condition. Okay, next I have windshield and traffic monitoring devices. So my windshield, I'm checking to make sure that both windshields are not cracked or damaged. There are no illegally placed stickers. They're clean on the inside and outside, and the seal is in good condition, so it's not leaking. And again, no illegally placed stickers, nothing obstructing my vision. Traffic monitoring devices, I have my mirrors here on both sides. I'm checking to make sure that the mirrors are clean, they're not cracked or damaged, they're properly adjusted to me as the driver, so I don't have to, you know, lean over to be able to see out of them. I can just turn my head and see through them, and they look like they are just fine. So that's the flat mirror and the convex mirrors on both sides. Then windshield wipers and washers. So my wipers, I want to check my blades, make sure that they have good contact against the windshield. They're not cracked or damaged or broken. They appear to be solidly connected. No parts are peeling away. And then I want to check the washer, the sprayer, make sure that it sprays fluid on there and that it cleans it off. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my wipers on, and then the sprayer, that's cleaning the windows. Everything appears to be working properly, and those are in good condition. Okay, next we have heater and defroster. So I've got my main heat. I'm going to put that over here. Turn this on the different speed settings. So that's working there. I can feel the heater that's blowing through here, and I can see and feel the defroster is working there. So along with that, there's these fans here. We want to check and make sure that those are working. High and low and then off, so a lot of the times we can use these fans to help defrost the windows as well. So it's important that those are working. Okay, next we have the horns. This has just got the city horn. There is no air horn. That's working properly. Next on the list is passenger and school bus only items. So we have our passenger entry and lift. So I'm actually going to go ahead and open the door here, turn the vehicle off so I can inspect the entryway. So the entryway, I'm checking to make sure that it's clean and clear of any objects or any debris. I want to make sure that the flooring is not peeled up. There's no screws or anything sticking up that could get you hung up on. There's no items or anything in here that clothing or backpacks or anything could get stuck on. And I want to check to make sure that These handholds are properly securely mounted. They're sturdy, not cracked or damaged, and they're smooth. There's no rough edges or anything on there. The doorway here opens and closes properly. Again, there's nothing in here that could snag children or clothing or any other articles, and everything appears to be working properly. I have my lighting for my entryway. There's a light out here and a light here. I want to make sure that those lights are working. All right, and then we have the lift. So I'll come over here. This bus is equipped with a lift, so I'm just going to inspect real quick. Don't have to operate it, but I want to make sure that the lift is here. It appears to be in good operating condition. There's no cracked or damaged parts, and yeah, everything is as it should be. Also have a student light here for that lift, and we would want to inspect this and make sure that it raises and lowers properly and that all safety devices are intact, not cracked or damaged or missing. Okay, so next is emergency exits. So while I'm on the outside, I'll just go ahead and point out the emergency exits. We have windows, so one here and there on both sides of the vehicle. We want to check and make sure that they're clearly marked emergency exits, and we also want to make sure that they have the proper reflective tape around the emergency exits, and that's clean and properly attached. This is not an emergency exit, that's just the lift door. We have the emergency exit on the back of the bus. Again, it's clearly marked, and you can check and make sure that these open and close properly. They have the proper reflective tape around there. And on this side, we have a larger emergency exit door. This one, I'm going to open, make sure that the door is able to lock open. It has the proper instructions on the inside, and everything appears to be working properly. Again, assisting students to exit. And we'll close this, make sure that that's working properly. It opens and closes easily and smoothly. And again, everything is working properly there. And then we have the emergency exits. It has the proper reflective tape around that. So now we'll go inside and check the emergency exits on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the key to the on position so that we can check the buzzer, make sure that it's working. So we have our emergency exits here. The proper signage is here. See instructions below. It has the instructions in place. That all is good. I'm going to check this door here. This is the one that we opened from the outside. The buzzer works. The door opens and closes easily from the inside. And that shuts off. So that's good. We also have our roof emergency exits. One back there, one up here. We want to make sure that these, again, have the proper instructions. And you would grab this red handle, twist it to the side, and push up, and that would allow you to exit. So those are all in place and appear to be working properly. Okay, then we have passenger seating. So what I want to do is inspect all the passenger seats, make sure that they're all securely fastened to the floor. They're all sturdy. The seat cushions are all in place, and they're all, properly mounted as they should be. Again, you want to go through and check every single seat, make sure that they're all there in place. They have good padding, so that if someone hits the front of these, they're not getting injured. And if they have seat belts, there are a couple in here that have seat belts. We'd want to inspect those and make sure that those seat belts are working properly. Okay. So next we have passenger monitoring devices. So for the passenger monitoring devices, we have our student crossover mirrors. That's these other mirrors on the outside. We want to check these and make sure that we can see on the driver's side, at least from behind the tire, all the way around the front and out across that way. And then the same with this side, the passenger side. We want to see the passenger tire all the way across the front and going out to this side. Now it's important that you have them adjusted properly so that you can see the ground all the way around the bus. If they're not adjusted properly, someone could be standing up, leaning up against there and you wouldn't see it. So those are our student crossover mirrors. Then we have our student mirror here. This, we want to be able to see all our students from the front seat all the way to the back. So we need to make sure this is adjusted properly for you as the driver, and that it's clean and free of illegal stickers and operating correctly. It's not loose, it's not rattling around or anything. Okay, so then we have student lights front and back and the stop and safety arm. So this does not have a safety arm, but we do have the stop arms on the side. So what I'll go ahead and just turn the key to the on position, turn our master switch on. That turns on the red alternating light, and I can see on the sides my stop arms came out. They're flashing as they should, and they're clean and very visible and are working properly. So I'll go ahead and turn that off, make sure that that's going off. Now for the student lights, the alternating lights, I'll have get assistance here to have those checked when I do my external light operations check. So we'll check all those at the same time. Okay, then there's the first aid and body fluid kit. Those are both, again, located inside this drawer up here. We want to make sure that they are, properly stocked. Most of the time they've either got plastic wrap on them or a seal. If it doesn't have that and it's been tampered with at all, you'd want to inspect that and make sure that you're not missing any items, and that any items that need to be replenished are, and that they are not out of date. Same thing with the body fluid kit, first aid kit. So again, those are in there. All right, so next we'll do the external light operations check. So if I can get you to help me with that, I'll take that. Thank you. So for the check here, what I want you to do is go out to the front on the passenger side, and when I turn the lights on, check the side of the bus and the front of the bus. All right?
All right.
Okay, so he's in place. So right, left, four-way flashers. Okay, headlights, high beams. All right, my clearance and marker lights. All right, now I'm going to turn on the alternating lights. So that's the yellow. All right, and then open the door to turn on the red. Those are working. Okay, can you go? Now I'd like you to check the driver's side and the rear of the vehicle.
All right.
Okay, left, right, four ways. All right, and then brake light. And my clearance and marker lights. Okay. Now the yellow alternating flashing and the red alternating flashing. All right, and the stop lights, the stop arms are working back there? Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's my slowpoke son over there. All right, here you go. So that's the external light operations check. So next we've got the front of the vehicle and the engine compartment area. So let's let's head out to the front. So for the front of the vehicle, it's first thing on the list is lenses. I want to check all my lenses and my lights and reflectors, make sure that they're all properly attached, they're not cracked or damaged, they're clean, and no water condensation or anything built up inside them, and they are all the proper color. I'm going to shut these lights off. So this also says engine area, so I'm going to check that when we get back to the back of the vehicle, because that's where the engine is at. So I'm just going to kind of work my way down. So we've got fluid and air leaks. So from the front here, I'm going to look underneath and make sure that there are no dripping leaks of any kind of fluids. There could be hydraulic fluid from the steering system leaking up here, and I'm also listening for any audible air leaks. Next, we've got the steering system. So because I can't see the steering system because of the type of vehicle that we have here, I'm just going to describe and kind of point to where the parts are located and a brief description of what we're checking for. So we've got the steering wheel down to the column, going to the steering box. That's connected to the frame, and then I'm checking the box and all links and joints and pins and rods going all the way over to the steering axle. I want to check all of those, make sure they're not cracked or damaged, there's no bent or broken parts. I'm also checking cotter pins and joints and castle nuts, making sure everything's in place, properly lubricated, not cracked or damaged, and nice and snug. Okay. Next, we'll go to the steering axle. So with the steering axle, I'm going to inspect my tires. There's three things I'm checking my tires for: the inflation, the condition, and the minimum tread depth. So I'll start with the inflation. I want to use a tire gauge, locate the valve stem here, make sure that it's not bent, cracked, or damaged. It has a cap on there. I would remove the cap, and using a tire gauge, check to make sure that it's inflated to the manufacturer's suggested level. In this case, it's 105 psi, and I want to make sure that, again, I'm using a tire gauge to check that is at the proper level. Then I'm going to check the condition of the tire. So the sidewalls and the top of the tire, I want to check and make sure there's no cuts, bulges, or abrasions. There's no gashes. There's no chunks missing. Chunks of rubber missing, anything that is exposing the plies of the tire. I want to check and make sure that I have even tread wear and that it's not cupped or there are not any flat spots as well. And I also want to make sure that there are no nails or screws or any foreign objects that are in the tires that could cause leaking. Next, I've got my minimum tread depth. The minimum tread depth on the steer tire is 4/32 of an inch. On all other tires is 2/32 of an inch minimum. And I would check that using a tread depth gauge and make sure that on all the major tread grooves, it's that minimum tread depth. Also on steer tires, we're not allowed to have recaps or retreads. They have to be new tires. Let me see. So next, we've got the rims. So we're checking the rims. I want to check around this outer area, make sure we have a good bead. It's not dented, cracked, or damaged, and properly connected with the tire there. And then I want to check the entire rim, looking for any kind of cracks or damage or dents, and also making sure that there's no illegal repair welds. Then also I'm inspecting to make sure that there are no distorted bolt holes where these studs come through on all of these spots here, making sure that they don't appear to be distorted or elongated. And let me see, next is lug nuts. So I'm checking all the lug nuts, making sure they're all present and that they're all tight. They're not cracked, damaged, or split. And the studs here are not damaged in any way. And then I'm also checking for signs of looseness, which could be rust streaking, so rust coming out in streaks from here out. And I'm also checking for shiny threads. So if these threads here are shiny, that's an indicator that the tire may have been changed recently or taken off or fixed or repaired, and they may or may not have properly torqued that down. So if you're seeing shiny threads or rust trails, then you would want to talk to your mechanic and have them just torque those down and make sure that they're right. Okay, next we have spring mounts, airbags, and shocks. So with this type of vehicle, because again, it's really hard to see any of those parts in here, what we are allowed to do is just say that we're inspecting the vehicle to make sure it's not leaning front or back or side to side, and that, you know, it appears to be riding levelly, and that would, if it were leaning right to left or front to back, then that would be an indicator of an issue with some of those parts. Okay. Next, we've got our brake hoses and leaks. So again, can't see it, but inside here we have our brake hoses. We want to check and make sure that they're securely mounted on both ends. They're not cracked, damaged, or bulging. They're not rubbing up against anything when the tires are turning. And it's in good enough condition to be able to supply air to the braking system. Next, we have brake contaminants. And I don't know if I said it, but for the hoses, checking to make sure it's not leaking. For some reason, I'm thinking I skipped that. So, brake contaminants, we want to check inside the drum and the linings in there. We want to inspect that, make sure there's no grease, oil, any kind of foreign debris, anything that could cause the brakes to not work as they should. So that's the brake contaminants. Next is the side of the vehicle, lenses and reflectors. So what I'm going to do is just stand here and look at every light and reflector on the vehicle, making sure that they're all connected properly, they're not cracked or damaged, lenses are not cracked or damaged, properly fastened, no water condensation or anything built up, reflectors are all attached as they should be, and they are all the proper color. Traffic monitoring devices. So we'll come over here. We've got our mirrors. We want to check the mounting, making sure it's connected to the vehicle properly. It's not bent, cracked, or damaged. Not shaking around. We're checking the mirrors themselves, making sure that they are not cracked, damaged, they're clean, and again, not rattling around or really loose, and appear, you know, to be in good operating condition. All right, so again, we'll check that for all of our mirrors. Next, we've got fuel tank. This is not equipped with a DEF system, but the diesel fuel tank is here. We've got the cap and the tank just down below that. The tank, we're checking to make sure that it's securely mounted to the vehicle. It's not cracked or damaged or dented, and it's not leaking. And then we're also checking the hoses and fuel lines going to the engine, make sure they're not leaking. And we've got the cap here, make sure that that's in place. You should have a good rubber seal on the inside and that it's not leaking as well. And make sure that you're putting the correct kind of fuel in there. Next, we've got the frames. So the tire frame from front to back, we would look underneath there, inspect the frame to make sure that it's not cracked, damaged, twisted. There's no loose or missing nuts and bolts. We're checking cross members to make sure that they're all in place. We're checking to make sure that there are no welds or holes drilled in the top and the bottom flanges. Everything should be bolted in from the side. And again, no illegal repair welds or anything like that. Next, we've got our battery. The battery box is here. We'll open this up. I can see the battery. It's securely attached, so it's mounted in there, so it's not, you know, shaking around or anything. It's not bulging. It's not cracked or damaged. It's not leaking anything. And we're also checking the terminals and the wires. The terminals, we're checking to make sure all the nuts are in place and tight. There's no corrosion on the terminals. And then the wires going out of the battery box and over to the engine in the different areas, we're checking to make sure that there's no wires that are exposed, bad insulation, and there's no areas where it's shorting out. Okay. So, the rear of the vehicle, checking lenses and reflectors. So again, we're checking all the lenses and all the reflectors, throughout, making sure that they're all in place, securely mounted, they're not cracked or damaged, there's no water condensation or anything in there, and they are all the proper color and properly attached. And then we also have our reflective tape on here that's required for the school buses, so that's yellow. That's also, on the corners and down the sides, and that's all in place, it's properly attached and in good condition. Next we have the engine compartment area, so I'll go ahead and open this. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is look underneath the vehicle, make sure there's no dripping, leaks, or puddles or anything that I can see. I'm checking the entire engine bay area, so the radiator, the engine, the transmission, along the bottoms, the tops, everywhere, and all the other parts back here, looking for any kind of leaking or seepage. That all appears to be good. Checking all the hoses, liquid and air hoses, making sure there are no leaks, there's no cracks or damage, bulging, no chafing hoses, and everything appears to be good. I can't hear any audible air leaks, so that is all good there. Let me see here. So next we've got fluid levels. So I want to inspect my fluid levels. This is my coolant reservoir. I want to check and make sure that it is at the proper level. This is where I'm checking it, and through this sight glass, and I can see coolant in there, so that is at the proper level. Next is the engine oil. This is the dipstick for the engine oil. I would pull that out, wipe it off, fully reinsert it, pull it back out, and check to make sure that it is in between the add and full lines. And then back here is my power steering fluid reservoir, or hydraulic fluid. I'm checking to make sure that the power steering fluid is in at the proper level. So right over here you can see the sight glass on the side, and looking at it from an angle, I can see that there is a fluid in there, and that is at the proper level. Okay, and that appears to be everything on the list. It doesn't hurt to just run through it real quick, just read through the list, make sure that you checked everything. Okay, that is everything on the inspection.